Welcome to Across the Park podcast, the only place you can hear banter and debate from both sides of Stanley Park, whether it be blue or red. Sponsored by Their Clothing, Camper Kings UK, and affiliation with BetMate. Hello, welcome to Across the Park podcast, the Merseyside Derby preview. Myself, Ian Mills, and Andrew Price in our royal blue, Terry McGivern and Phil Roberts in their red jerseys, going into what I still think, despite dreading this game, is the biggest derby in the world. The Reds can say it's Man United, they can say it's whoever they want. It's us. Never let them forget it. Big thank you to our sponsors, always Camper King UK. Get over to Camper Kings. It is the season to get those camper vans out. We're going into summer holidays. We're finishing Easter. The light nights are here. Why not get over to Camper Kings UK? Quote Across the Park podcast. We'll throw in a bottle of bubbly. Give you free insurance. We've been locked down for 2 years. Get over to Camper Kings UK and get out and about on the boys at Across the Park podcast. Thank you as always to Their Clothing, VIRclothing.com. They kit the boys out in some really, really nice menswear, from tees, hoodies, jeans, chinos, shoes, even some caps. I think Terry's rocked a couple of caps around the church on a few home games. So get over to theirclothing.com, quote ATP20. They will give you 20% off on the Boys Across the Park podcast. And a big shout, as always, to our affiliates over at BetMate. I must have lost about £9 now, betting on these little £2 games and never win. It's always Terry or Gary who win. If you get over to BetMate, if you download the BetMate app on the Play Store or the Android Store, or the Apple Store, sorry, you can do like a fantasy football, search Across the Park. We've got our own league there. You can join and pick like a fantasy football team from Everton, Liverpool, and their opponents. Very similar to the fantasy football that you've all played before. Defenders get points for tackles, midfielders get points for passes and assists. The man of the match gets points, double captain. Get over to Across the Park on the BetMate League. Pricey, I'm dreading it. I am absolutely dreading it. If I could close my eyes, wake up on Monday, and we've just lost, we'll just give them 3 points, I'd probably take it. What about you? Is any ounce of you looking forward to this game on Sunday?
No, can't be looking forward to it, can you? I don't think there's any ounce of me that's looking forward to whatsoever. I mean, I watched them on whenever it was, Tuesday, was it Monday, when they played Man United, and they looked unbelievable. They looked unbelievable. They made Man United look like a League One team. And if they can do that to Man United, who were nowhere on a very good form, and there's issues there and whatever else, but if they can make them look that bad, it is worrying for what they might be able to do to Everton. The only positive I've got, not the only positive I've got, I don't want to have a down on Everton and say, with this and that, but the only one of the positives we've got is that the Leicester game, which we're recording the day after the Leicester game, yeah. We showed battle, we showed character, we looked like we were fighting for everything, we looked like we wanted to win and we wanted to have a go, and we've got to take that attitude in Anfield. That's the only way we're going to limit it to a 2-0 defeat is by showing that attitude and that desire to at least have a good go. The worst thing is going to be the crowd on our back, a couple of bad passes. They just harry us from, press us from the front, and then we just go to pot to get an early goal, 2-0 up after 10 minutes, and then it's just clinging on for dear life. That's what I'm dreading. That's what I can see happening, and I'm dreading it. I think it's just in 15 or 20 minute stages. Let's keep a clean sheet, or let's not concede for the first 15 minutes. Let's see what happens, and if we get a chance, we've got to try and take it. And that's how we're going to have to set up. I mean, it's not that we can get at Liverpool, but Liverpool, I think they can be got at. I think if you have a good go at them, and they're there to be got at, they play a high line, and there is a way to play against them to try and catch them on that high line, but it's really hard, and we've got to play a perfect game, and Liverpool have got to be off the game for us to get a point. And that's what's not. I'm not. Sorry, got to go on, Phil.
I was going to say, does the fact that if you'd have lost against Leicester and United, there'd have been more on this game because you need the points, and it would have been a horrible situation, and then if we would have just battered you 4-5-0 or something, it would have been even worse. But is this now kind of like pressure off, a shot to nothing, or you're almost safe?
I can't say it's pressure off. Every point counts, doesn't it? And you can't pick and choose when you're gonna play and say, we're going to put this to one side and forget about it. I think it is a bit of a free hit in certain, aspects, because we're not expected to get points, but it doesn't mean that we don't need them. It doesn't mean we can write it off. We still need to go there and try and get a point, or try and, get something from the game. But if we don't, as you say, it's not going to hurt as much as we did if we took no points in the last couple of games. And it depends how Burnley get on tonight as well. I think if Burnley get beat tonight, then that'll probably give us a bit more of a free hit as well. If Burnley win tonight, then it is massive pressure, but every game's going to be massive pressure for us from now on in.
It's not just tonight for Burnley, is it? Because they play the early kick-off on the Sunday as well, before our game. So potentially they could have had 2 games and had 2 results, depending on how they go in the bag, which really would put the pressure on you. Do you know what I mean? It's only 4 points, isn't it?
Yeah, so maybe we've got 3 going into the derby then.
So I guess it depends how the results go, as you say. I think as you said, it's a bit of a free hit, isn't it? In terms of you're not expected to win, and because you took a few points, if Burnley don't get anything out of their next 2 games, then it's like this won't be the one that defines your season, the derby. But obviously, if Burnley pick up 2 wins before you play, you have to win in that derby, so it becomes a much more precious.
Oh, you're horrible, man. Why have you got to start doing would you rathers? And if this happens, and then if your fucking roof falls off and it's raining and you've got no roof, stop it. Let's just concentrate on.
The home of Manchester.
I'm going to try and go on, Pricey. Sorry.
Why have I got a feeling Terry's studied Burnley's form before and fixed the list before he's calling this call?
Horrible, man. Look, I'm gonna. There's just as many Evertonians watching this as there are Liverpool, but the only place you can hear banter and debate. It's a big week for our podcast. We've got a couple of special guests coming up later, 1 red and 1 blue. Pricey, I'm going to try and maybe be a little bit positive. Are the teams that different from February last year when Everton won 2-0 at Anfield? I mean, and I didn't go into that game thinking, I know Liverpool had 1.5 injuries or something, but they still had Thiago, they still had the usual suspects, they had the front 3, they had the goalkeeper who's the best in the world, the best fullbacks in the world. They were all playing then, and Everton won. So, maybe...
The Liverpool's main man wasn't there already, the crowd. Liverpool's crowd weren't there, and that's a massive thing. That's huge. That is a huge thing. And I mean, they lost. Well, I mean, they just lose at home last season. You lost about 4 or 5 on the spin, didn't you? Because of no crowd, if I remember rightly. So what's that?
I think it might have been 6, 5 or 6.
Yeah. So they're on a bit of a down. And I don't want to be negative for negative's sake.
No, you're being a realist, and I get it. You're being a realist. I understand it, but I don't know. I'm like you. I'm fearing the worst. I'm not looking forward to it. I've told the missus I might not even watch it. She's fucking made up because she's got the telly on Sunday. Hopefully, if I do walk the dog, I'll be watching it on my phone. I'm dreading it. But I also think maybe we owe people watching this a little bit of positivity. 1 minute in, Van Dijk red card, Everton penalty. You never know; these things can happen.
Yeah, and we all
Kabak and Henderson we had in central defence, Terry. Kabak and Henderson in the middle.
This is the same Kabak that you raved over when you signed him, and this is the best midfielder in England or something, is it?
What are you talking about?
You've got Kabak on the back of your shirt, didn't you? Look at the best Turkish defender ever had. We've got him. You're always like that. Don't be playing it down. Don't be playing it down. We walked into your pit last year and beat you, and you never know. Stranger things have happened than us lot doing it again to you.
What happened when we walk into your pit this season? Absolutely bladdered.
Exactly what we said was going to happen. You sung Rafa songs and battered us. Just to switch it over to you then, the Reds. I mean, the derby's a motive, but you've probably got, in a weird way, other things on your mind. You're going for 3 more trophies. I think personally that you're in Man City's head. Does that? Are you still focused on that, or does the derby take over?
No, I think one thing we can say about this Liverpool team is they don't look past the next game. I don't see that a lot with this Liverpool team, where it looks like they've got demands and other things and stuff. And every point in this league is absolutely vital to us now. You know what I mean? And the fact that you use the next game in the way. Obviously, it's a derby, so it is more emotive, and it's there's a bit more local pride riding on it. But them 3 points are as valuable as any 3 points in the league now for us. We have to win. I think every game in the league to the end of the season if we're gonna finally leapfrog City. So I don't think it's going to be one of them where we're going to be sort of having an eye on different competitions and stuff like that. I think
Terry,
this will be taken very serious, this game.
After the Everton game, Liverpool play Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday in big games. So let's forget the fact it's a derby. And no disrespect to Everton, but if this was Burnley or Watford, that would be a chance to possibly rotate a little bit, wouldn't it? We've got to rotate. Can't play Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday without rotating. So, like...
No, for me, you go full strength in the derby. I'd actually, if I'm honest, be a bit more pragmatic in the home leg against Villarreal. If I'm honest, I would. I think we've got the ability to beat Villarreal over 2 legs, and in a European night at home.
Bayern Munich thought.
Nah, well, I'm not saying that we definitely will, but they've actually been beaten away. I think Man U beat them away, didn't they, in the group stages and stuff. So, it's not like Villarreal's some fortress either when you go to their place. So, it's one of them. I'd want us to go as strong as possible in the league. I think with the benefit of playing over 2 legs in the Champions League, you've got a bit more leeway. If we slip up against Everton at home, it could be curtains for this league campaign. So, don't fall.
I know.
And it's before you came to Goodison 3 years ago, and we costed it then. How nice would it be, Pricey, to get over the other side of the park?
Imagine we derail your season. That's what the hope is for us. That's like, I mean, to be honest, it's more about us avoiding relegation for me. But if we just can be that team that just derails the season for you, it's just
once again, we've done it before. Done it before, Pricey. We've done it before. Don't let these two wind it up and say it wasn't. That was the game at Goodison that they dropped, and they won every game since, and they couldn't get back. It was that game at Goodison. The podcast was going back then.
Thinking about doing that. Forget relegation.
Absolute madness.
So Phil, you're saying this. Sorry, Terry. Phil, you're saying that rotation might be on the minds of the manager. It's obviously on the minds of you, so 50% of the podcast straight away. If that's a fair split, the fan base might be thinking that. Who are you rotating in and out, or who do you think is rotating in and out?
I think historically, Klopp does take the emotion out of the derby, and he tends to rotate in derby games. Not so much lately, but who would you take out? I mean, for me, Thiago's been mustered. Obviously, the best player we've had in the last couple of weeks, but he's still very injury prone, and I want to wrap Thiago in cotton wool. So I'd think about taking him out for the derby. It's one of them games where the tackles are flying. So there'll be a lot of red saying.
The fullbacks, I think. The fullback, maybe Gomez and Tsimikas.
I probably wouldn't rotate the fullbacks. It affects how we play too much. But definitely Thiago and possibly Mane, something like that.
Yeah, I can see maybe Thiago getting a bit of a rest, and then you're probably looking at maybe a Fabinho, Henderson, Keita midfield, which Keita's played quite a lot recently. So I know obviously he's not at the standard of Thiago. Thiago, as you say, he's been absolutely impeccable the last couple of weeks, but I don't think that's like a dramatic rotation. It's not like you're throwing a kid in, or like really, you're playing a player who's been playing the last couple of weeks, and he's looked good when he's played. He played in big games, so. Up the forward line, I don't even look at that as rotation now, because the backup options are that good. It's like it's just picking a 3 out of the 5, isn't it? Really, do you know what I mean? And if you take Mane out and put a Jota in, is that really like sort of weakening your side? I don't know. Like
you've done this before, though, haven't you? You've done this before a few years back in the game you won 5-2. Played like Shaqiri and Origi and stuff. And look, it's embarrassing to say it was good enough. So maybe would that happen again?
I just don't think we do it when basically we've got, I think it's 10 games or 11 games, isn't it? Until potential in the next 10, 11 games to win everything. And I don't think you start throwing, the likes of like Oxlade-Chamberlain and all that in the derby. I think that's just taking the piss. And I'd be disappointed if we do it, because I want us to make sure that we don't look and go, why did we do that? You know what I mean? We've got to get this game won. And then I'd maybe think about it in the Champions League games where you've got 2 legs, you've got the chance to recover. If you don't put a great first leg in, I think if we drop points in the derby, I think it'd be really, really disappointing if it's down to something like we threw someone in who's had a poor game, who hasn't been playing, like Oxlade-Chamberlain, or threw Curtis Jones in or something, I'd just be like,
get ready to be disappointed. Get ready for it, lad. It's coming. It's coming.
Mills.
Talking about Thiago, do you remember when Millsy used to say Thiago was a thumbs up merchant? Most touches.
Sorry, Philly. But he was.
Don't forget the first derby that he played, and he said, "What a player! Some sign and that." And then he changed his entire tune and said he was garbage.
Thiago has took
Terry screenshotted your messages in his head, Mills.
It's mad that this Thiago loving. He's played man of the match against Matic and McTominay in 2 years. Boss, best in the world, top 6. Tracy, we've talked to those about the team.
Millsy. He cost the same price as Gabaman, you know. Would you swap?
I got Gabaman on the back of my little boy's top. It's a sore subject, that. Get off Gabaman. Tracy, how are we lining up? How do you think we're lining up? Do you think he's going to do a proper low block defensive job? He hasn't done that really before.
I think he's going to have to go Delph and Allen in midfield with one other. I think he'll probably just stick to the same team as he done the other night. You know, last night. I think maybe the only change is what's that?
Iwobi as like the central again, or I
think so, yeah. Because Iwobi's playing well. I don't see why you would take him out the team. He's you know, for all the downers we've been on him, you have to say he does look a different player in that role. So I think you've got to have Delph. I think what Delph brings is just a bit of composure. Maybe not on the ball. I'm not saying he's composed on the ball and he's a good passer of the ball particularly, but you bring a composure to the midfield and his talking and his organising. I think we need that, and we need that experience there. With Allen, I'd probably sit the both of them a bit deeper with Iwobi in front of them. That's how I'd play it. And then the only thing I'd change is, I don't know. I think he'll go the same. I would maybe, and I don't know what I'd do. I'd maybe play Rondon and I don't want to say it out loud, but I'd maybe play Rondon and put Richard and swap Richarlison for Gray probably. I think Richarlison's not very effective as a number 9. I think we need that that point of front. We said it on the instant match last night, and I know Calvert-Lewin's not playing. We just haven't got anybody else to play that role, and I think I'd be tempted to do that. He'll give us an outlet as well. If we're in trouble, we can knock her up and he can maybe hold it up, whereas Richarlison's just going to come back at us all the time. So I get Rondon holding it up and then try and convert the channels and you know, have a go with them. I think
he'll play Rondon. I think he'll play Rondon, I do. But I also think he might go back to what he tried to start when he first came. It's that 3 centre-halves, that 3-4-3, that 3-5-2. I think he'll go 3 centre-halves and maybe have wing-backs.
I hope not. Only because I don't think it'll work, but I don't think there's enough time between the Leicester game and the Liverpool game to have worked on that formation against such a fast and strong front three that Liverpool play, whoever it is that they play. I just don't think there's enough time in between games to have worked on it. Maybe if he comes next, if he works in the summer, and that's how we line up to start the next season. But in between games, I think he needs to stick with that back four that, on the whole, looked pretty solid last night. Don't think Leicester had too many chances. They had loads of possession, but not too many chances. So I think he keeps that back four. But yeah, I'd swap Rondon, put Richarlison wide, and take Gray off me.
So, and then who's on the other flank?
Gordon, yeah. That's how I would start it.
I'm a bit worried about Delph's talking. That could hurt us.
The thing is, you worry about the voice box. Worry about the thumbs up.
Phil, you look a bit like Delph.
He does actually. We'd get away with that, across the park.
I'm not sure what to say about that.
A bit of a blare on Phil to go with his bad sound quality as well. What's the the win is the easy answer here. But what's the perfect scenario for you? Start with you, Terry. Is it to batter Everton, or is it just a 3 points? And that's
the perfect scenario to absolutely royally smash the living daylights out of you.
I'm asking that because you're talking about one game at a time and stuff. So that's what I'm asking.
No, listen, obviously the most important thing is to win, but to win in the same sort of fashion that we did against Man U, where it was like, didn't feel like there was a lot of effort expended. It was everyone was enjoying the football, threw a load of goals on the scoreboard, and absolutely sort of filled the team with confidence. If that's how we come out of the derby, over the moon.
Either that or Origi 95th minute, one of the two.
Swan song before we lose.
That's the answer.
In all honesty, a scrappy 1-0 last minute own goal from Everton, where you've just about scraped it. Will you be a bit disappointed with that? As it stands now, I know maybe there's relief on the day that you've got the 3 points. Is that a bit disappointing for you?
It wouldn't be disappointing, no. But obviously, what I don't want is it to be a proper, grueler. Like sort of like what City went through with Atletico, where they picked up loads of injuries and they've scraped it, and it's a proper horrible one. Do you know what I mean? It's like, obviously we want to get out there as easily as possible, and with all 3 points, with no injuries and stuff, and do it nice. But
no injuries, Terry. I think Lampard will ramp them up to go out there and be horrible. I do think he will do that. I think he'll be bit of needle.
And he's within his right to, because if you're managing Everton, that's what I'd be saying. I'd be saying these are terrified of getting in. These would be terrified of getting injured because of the running that they've got and what.
So are you, though. So are you. There must be
that
that on your
side.
Oh, sorry.
If I was the manager of Everton, I'd be saying that. The players won't want to get injured because they want to be making sure that they're in these big games and stuff. So, go out there and amped up and stuff. And we've got to make sure this Liverpool team's got to make sure that whilst it doesn't shrink from that and shake it, it also, they have to make sure they match it, because if it's when you sort of shrink from it and try and protect yourself that you get hurt, I think. So I think we've got to be physical in the same way that we were against Man U. I don't think you've got to be sort of rough house, but against Man U, we were imposing. We were physically stronger and faster than them, and it was almost like we're not having any of this nonsense. We're imposing our will on this game, and that's what I think we've got to do, because otherwise, if we let Everton win a few of the early 50-50s and put it about us, you don't want to get that in your head. That's also, we don't want to pick up injuries and stuff like that. So I think we've got to start the game the way we started that Man U game. Absolutely no nonsense, not taking any shit from this Everton team, and basically saying we're winning all 3 points.
It's not happening. Get it off your head. It's not happening.
It's going to happen. Honestly,
here's one for you. We're going to move on to the second half of the show now, and a couple of people are going to tag out, and we're going to get some very special guests coming on. What sort of reception, Phil, is Jordan Pickford getting when he's running towards the Kop?
Well, what do you think? He's just going to get laughed at, isn't he? I think
the England number one at Anfield in front of your fan base. You're going to boo the hell out of him.
Exactly. I think the pressure will mount, and do you know what? He's made mistakes before at Anfield, so it'll be in his head. Sorry.
I'm just looking forward to that sublime kicking that he's got. That just seems to bang it out into the stands every time he plays at Anfield.
Kicking Van Dijk, more like
he can't read the pitch.
Booyah! Take that, lad.
The pitch is too small. He kicks it out.
Look, the second half of the show is coming up, so we are going to tag another blue and another red in. Before Pricey and Terry do leave, myself and Phil. Terry, how's it going to go? Prediction, what's happening on Sunday in the Merseyside Derby, Liverpool versus Everton at Anfield?
Liverpool 3-1.
Pricey?
Everton 2-0.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Boys, as always, a pleasure, Pricey. I'd love to say I see you Sunday. I wouldn't go there if you paid me.
Cheers, boys.
Enjoy. Boys.
Cheers later. Cheers later. Bye.
Swap those sides. Why am I on the red side? Get out of it. We're going to bring our favorite guest in. It's someone that the Reds will know, even the Blues will know. So we'll bring them in first, and then we've got a second guest coming in. Here he is, Mr. Andy Grant, the legend who runs the Leggett podcast. He's someone that we all look up to, the king, the pod father. Unfortunately for me, he's a Red. But welcome to the show again, Andy. How are you doing, lads?
Yeah, I'm good, lads. Nice one for having me.
No worries. We are going to get a tag team partner for me, and so it'll even itself up in a minute. But just been talking, scenarios, what's going to happen on Sunday. Are you thinking there might be a little bit of rotation going into this? Because there's massive games ahead. Everton isn't the only game Liverpool have got left. They've got so many massive games coming up.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't know if anyone else got onto what Klopp said, that this is the only game where we've got, I think it was 4 days rest as opposed to 3. And I don't know whether reading too much into that, but whether that was kind of saying I maybe won't make as many changes as I would do if there was only 3 days in between. Listen, still expecting to mix it about a bit, but we're at a point at the moment, I think, Reds, where you're not as bothered where they need to rotate. I mean, gone are the days where he's bringing in Shaqiri or, maybe, Milner's coming in as a starter. You look at the team all around now, it's probably the best squad I think I've seen in the 33 years I've been on this planet. So the idea of rotation, whether he does it, does a lot of rotation or just a bit, I can't say I'm overly concerned at the word rotation anymore.
Is this still a game? I mean, there's loads of banter, even on this show, loads of banter that the Derby now, it's maybe not the first fixture that some Reds look out for, but is it still special to you, the Merseyside Derby, even though the 80s are gone, even the 90s, arguably, when Everton would give you a game, it's gone. Is it still special to you, or is it sort of?
I'll be honest. To me, again, I always kind of say on the podcast, I'm not bitter, and I sound like I'm bitter for saying that, but I'd be happy to see them go down. And I know a lot of Reds like, you don't want them to go down because they like the Derby. I don't particularly like it, and I think I'd like it, genuinely would like it more if Everton were more competitive. If it was both of us going for
me and you both. And I
just think because, for the last few years, Everton haven't been competitive, it just creates this kind of, the real kind of, it's not like Everton are ever trying to achieve anything, it's just trying to stop us. And it's a bit like, do you know what I mean? Come on. And so, and then that's where the kind of, and if we injure one of them, we'll fuck them, then great. And I hate all that, so I'd much prefer it, us both going for it. But as we're not, then I'm not really into it as much. I much prefer the Uniteds, the Chelseas, and for me anyway, it doesn't do it as much just because you aren't competitive.
Fair enough. Right, we're going to bring our next guest in now. It's my tag team partner for tonight. I finally got a tag team partner. Is the legend, the man who was one of the founders of one of the best Everton podcasts, The Blue Room. He works over on BBC Radio 5 now. Mr. Dave Downie, thanks for joining us. How are you doing, my man?
Right, I'm good, but Aaron and Andy saying bitter as soon as I come on here. I was tempted to just get it off. So,
but I've had half an hour of it.
I'm surprised you were still on, mate, with these two giving it loads like that.
Well, Andy's just come on and he's killed me by saying Everton aren't a big fixture no more. It's all about Man United. I've got no banter left. I'm made up. You've come on just to help me out.
Because I'll probably agree with him in the end.
I asked Andy there. Me and Phil spoke earlier about fixtures that you look out for. For me, I'm not going to lie. I do always look, when is the Derby? Are we at home first or are we away second? Things like that. Is it still special to you now, as it was maybe growing up as a younger Evertonian?
I think it always will be, if I'm completely honest. I'd like to say no, given the predicament we're in these days, but I think it is. I think the first fixtures you look at, whoever you are, I think it's the first fixtures we look at. And I think in their heart of hearts, I know Phil and Andy probably say something different now, but I think it's one of the first ones they look at as well. It's always going to be United these days. It's always going to be City when they look at it now. But I think the Merseyside Derby is what we all look at quite quickly as soon as the fixtures come out. Ours always seems to, we always seem to be at them second, I think, in the last 20 years or something.
You're right, yeah.
We've only done the Anfield one first, once or twice, I think. Yeah. And then the one that we've actually won for the first time in 20 odd years, we weren't even allowed to be there, were we? So they'll be saying it wasn't even a proper derby, won't they, and all that stuff. Yeah. But
it's like their league title didn't count.
Yeah, exactly right, mate. Exactly right. And I just hope there isn't one that counts this season, to be honest with you, because they'll all be there then, won't they? And making a show of us outside the buildings and the cop and all that. But I mean, to be honest, mate, to talk about this one that's coming up on Sunday, I don't think I've felt more worry about this game than I do in this one, to be honest. And yeah, listen, I know Richarlison saved our bacon there, didn't he, getting a last minute equaliser?
Yeah.
I still don't think that's enough. I know. I'm not sure when your pod goes out, but obviously Burnley are playing Southampton. I'm supporting Southampton like Koeman's there, like it was still with us. You know, it's getting that sad now these days, isn't it? But yeah. Sunday, mate. I mean, if I've certainly turned down my ticket, I won't be going to that because I think there's only one thing that's going to happen on Sunday. And
what if the players have that attitude?
What's
the
that?
The players can't have that attitude, can they? I know you and Millsy have both said the same thing, but how much of a theme throughout the fan base is that?
The players have been the thing for me personally all season long, and certainly towards the end of Ancelotti's reign last year. are the ones that have probably had an attitude that's worse than ours, than what I've just said there. And I think when I watch the way in which we play, the way these certainly under Benitez as well. And again, I'll probably get some stick from this from the Blues, but what happened with Benitez, I think it's been proven under Lampard as well. It certainly wasn't all his fault. Yes, his tactics were negative and all that sort of thing. If you're going to go down that line, but the way in which our players have conducted themselves has been embarrassing. Because if you look at that squad, the start of this season, if we take our red and blue hats off and you look at that squad that Everton had, you look and think at worst it's a mid-table side. At best, it's probably challenging for the Europa League or something like that. The way in which it's gone, I think, 80-90% of that has been because of the way in which they've conducted themselves as professionals. I think it's stumped the place out, to be honest. There's so many I look at and think, how on earth are you getting the wage you're getting? It's made me feel sick when I've watched us at times, the way in which we perform, particularly away from home, under Benitez and under Lampard as well. So, look, I mean, I'm petrified now because I thought we desperately needed the win against Leicester. Having to go to the derby, it's going to be petrifying and terrible. You think of some of the songs you allowed, all the banter that's going to happen. It's just going to be tenfold, isn't it, Phil? Do you know what I mean? Because you love having that. You love having the 25 years, 26 years, 26. I've lost count now. Do you know what I mean? I think we've gone that far down the rabbit hole that it doesn't bother me as much anymore. It's just completely. Yeah. It's like deaf silence to me when I hear Liverpool fans singing about us, because I'll think of Everton worse than what they do, and that feels really sad as an Evertonian. Don't know if you agree with that, Ian. Do you not feel that way?
Mate, I'm with you, and everything you've said there rings true. I think Phil's talking about attitude from the players. Phil, it hasn't been there, minus a portion of last season. It hasn't been there for years. They're down tools on a number of managers. The problem being is the dressing room doesn't change. The same characters who will play on Sunday are the ones who got done by the kids, the ones who got Marco Silva sacked, the ones who down tools on other managers. I'm with David. It's the attitude you're talking about that the players can't have. They've already got. They've already got it.
We've become that desperate. I've been looking on Twitter, social reaction to yesterday, the 1-1 draw against Leicester, and people are talking positively about Fabian Delph. Now, he played really well with Alan, both of them at DM against United. We won 1-0. And yesterday, people are saying, he's somebody that we really haven't to rely upon. You think of what you've felt towards Fabian Delph since he's been an Everton player, and I'm seeing people saying we need to give him a new contract. That's how low this is getting. When you look at the players we need to get rid of, whose contract finishes in this summer, whether we're in the Premier League or whether we're not, I'm petrified of what they have actually got to go and do in terms of recruitment and in terms of getting rid of players. Who's going to come and want to sign the likes of that? How can they get rid of them? Do you know what I mean? It's just that word, isn't it? Deadwood. We've had it for years at the club. Years. And the worst thing I'm looking at now, Ian, is when you look at the way Everton are. Farhad Moshiri has been as bad as anybody else amongst the players, amongst the managers we've had. His decision making and him sort of being, it's so ironic in my eyes when I look at the criticism we've given towards Bill Kenwright. I absolutely, completely agree with what people say about Kenwright. Now he's ran the club like his own train set. I look at Moshiri and think that's exactly the same, because he's going to Yarabchin and people like that and asking them for their advice. Is he interested in Everton doing well? No, he's interested in selling the clients that he manages as an agent. They're the problems at our club. It's so deeply rooted that you can point in any direction and think, you know what, that's the blame, that's the blame, that's the blame.
Keep going, Dave. Keep going.
I know you're using half and half what you guys do, which is brilliant. But I tell you what, all the Reds will be loving the R.
You know what I think there though is, you said at the start, and I said, they're not competitive no more in the state that you're in and stuff, and I sound like a hypocrite now, but that's one of the reasons why I'm actually the opposite to you guys. I'm a little bit nervous, as I was with United. I was more confident that we'd beat City on Saturday than I was beating United last night. And I spoke to a few friends.
Andy, the difference with Liverpool under Klopp, and these are the things that are difficult to say and hard to say. It's relentless now. When I've watched you when he first came in and how you started growing, and when you got to the Europa final, I was thinking they look like a club that's a little bit more plucky because the squad you had wasn't great that he took over from when Rodgers left. And I thought, yeah, he's doing such a good job with a lot of average players. Still a couple of absolute diamonds that he still had with Stevie and Suarez and all that was still there, and all that sort of thing. But then now I look at and this is the worst nightmare for me in terms of, you remember United at their peak when they won the title every single season. In terms of the squad, and this is what I had a sort of chat to what Carragher put on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, saying the rivalry between Man City and Liverpool is miles better than it was when we saw Arsenal against United, and I completely agree with them. The level of the play you see when you two play each other. No, I mean, I'm open to see a trilogy of, like, we've seen the trilogy, but we've seen the first one when he's went there, drew 2-2. We've seen the second one, semi-final, and I'm hoping the third one's the Champions League final, because if I take the Everton hat off, mate, honestly, mate, if I take the Everton hat off to watch football, you don't get better than that these days. I honestly don't think you see better levels of football and quality than you are, and it makes me cry, to be honest.
I agree, but the only thing, which we sound like hypocrites, is that it does make me nervous, though, that the fact that we are this absolute wrecking train at the moment, and you are in the sorry state that you've already alluded to. It is still Everton now, and it's like, if how much joy would that bring you to kind of be the one who, and that's the thing that makes me a bit nervous, despite knowing how great we are. And listen, I've seen it for the past 5, 6, 7 years. When we've had them, you're right in what you said, but I am, like I was against United, a little bit nervous.
Do you know what I think a decent calculated gamble would be for Lampard? He had that little bit of needle with Klopp when he was managing Chelsea. Have a go with that at Anfield, reignite that. Cause a fight, not like a physical fight, but a fight on the pitch. But it could backfire, because if the whole of Anfield lifts off the back of it, you could get blown away because of doing that. But he needs to create a fight. He needs to level the playing field, take it away from football, make it horrible. And
I can't agree. I cannot agree. I think if we get into a fight at Anfield, we're done. I think we've got to for Everton to get anything out of this game in football terms, in my opinion, it's going to have to be the opposite of that. It's going to have to just be frustrating. If we can time waste on the first goal kick, if we kick off, put it in your corner and try and keep us up there for a little bit and just be horrible, just be a horrible team. Teams, and I don't like saying this, and Dave might agree or disagree, where we are now, teams like us have got to go and do that. There's no point me coming on this podcast and saying we're going to match you and we're going to score the first goal and then defend. No, we've got to go and do what we've seen teams in this situation, in relegation battles in late April, do before, and just go and be horrible. Not cause a fight, just try and get out of there. That's my opinion anyway.
No, I think that's spot on, and I think we're beyond the realms of where, when Joe Royle was there and Everton were crap, Liverpool were decent, trying to get into the top 4 Champions League, trying to win cups and stuff like that, mid-90s, say. When we go to Anfield, the dogs of war stuff and all that, we could do that because Liverpool's team weren't great. They were much better than Everton, but they weren't great. Yeah. This now is beyond pale in terms of the consistency that side shows versus ours. And the question I wanted to ask Ian was, I mean, I've feared going to Anfield for many, many, many years. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've feared it this much, though. This is petrifying thinking more. And I'm not just saying it. I know people will say, oh, yeah, Evertonians just say that to cry it in and all that. Similar to what Andy was saying then about, you still know that there's a chance that happens. Mm. I don't think there's a chance Everton get absolutely anything from, let alone the throw-in against Liverpool on Sunday. Because this is a club that is literally all over the place. I can't think of a time, certainly, I'm 34 years old. I can't think, and that's why I look about 54. I can't think of a time when these two have been polar opposites than right now, both in the way they play and the quality of squads that they've got.
It's a free hit then, isn't it, Dave?
It is. No, I completely agree, because I don't think there's any Evertonian going there thinking we can get it. There's brave men, women and kids going to that game thinking I can get anything, mate, because I think it's I honestly, sadly think it's nonsense if you think we can get anything there. And what Ian said there is the only chance I look at is Everton absolutely parking the bus and the park end and the Gladys Street and the main stand and the Bullens,
Yeah,
and we'll probably lose. That we literally got to go there and stand in front of our goal. I reckon. I don't think we're gonna have a shot on target. A draw would be a miracle for us, and if we got a draw, I mean, I'll be honest, I'll celebrate that like we've won it, and that's sad, isn't it? But
outside the live beds.
Well, that's it, mate. It cocks up there, quad, doesn't it? Quad, I don't even know what it's going to be. Finished.
Look, me and you, we're very real. We're talking realist, but let's try and be a little bit positive. For me, I'm thinking, and Andy's admitted that, the Everton thing is already playing on his mind. If Everton messed this up for Liverpool, we've done this before a few years back at Goodison Park. They were flying, and we were in trouble with them. And I think we beat Cardiff on the Wednesday to get ourselves a little bit above water. And then they came to Goodison, and whether they admit it or not, it was us who cost them that 18-19 league title.
The 0-0, it was that.
The 0-0 at Goodison, where they couldn't recover. I think they won every game since, and they just couldn't recover from that drop.
Yeah.
If we can do that again, mate, that's massive for the club, massive for the fan base. Not only for us. I'm that bitter. I'd love to do it to them.
Yeah, I mean, it's enticing, isn't it, when you think about what it could actually do, as in cost them the league. Ultimately, I think that's the one thing that they won't win is the Premier League. I think they'll probably go win the Champions.
You get a draw, though, right? If you get a draw, that you will not be the reason we do not win that league. When you get a draw,
you're not another one, Andy. You're not another one who says this.
Well, you look at the fixtures, and I think both Liverpool and City will ultimately drop some points. I don't think they'll all win all the way to the end. I know it's only 6 games left each, but I look at some of them. I think City have got to go to Leeds. Leeds absolutely love this type of game against Manx. That's a bit of a dark for them as well. Liverpool. I think there's points. There's points to be dropped. I still think from both of them. So I think you're probably right in saying that it wouldn't cost you it. I mean, I presume the pair of you don't think you'd win the Premier League at this moment in time, right now, do you?
I just think, but can't see Liverpool or City slipping up. I think they'll get points.
I look at City's running, and it's pretty depressing from a Reds' eyes. There's no one in there. Like you're praying on Moyes' West Ham to take points off City.
That's it. They're the only top 10 side they play.
What's that?
It's the only top 10 side they play, West Ham.
Yeah, we've got Tottenham.
Their last game of the season is Steven Gerrard's Aston Villa. And if a story by Satan hasn't been wrote before, it's being written right now.
Well, I mean, haven't you got to go to Wolves as well?
Yeah, and I think Liverpool's toughest game on paper, I think the lads might disagree, I think is maybe Spurs at home. That could be the one where...
It's good that it's at home.
I'd fancy Liverpool more against Spurs at home than I would do them going away to someone like a Wolves or something, because you just turn it on when it's against the bigger teams as well, don't you? Do you look what you did to United and
same with City.
Spurs, yeah.
That's the one thing about City. If you look at where they have dropped points, I think Brighton, Crystal Palace, it always comes when you don't expect it with them. So never say never.
I don't know, mate. I mean, I'm resorting to thinking that you've at least won one of the big two, as in Champions League or Premier League. I think you've won at least one of them. The run you've had. Let's be honest, lads. Now, if we're having a laugh and taking the piss here, who have you gone through to get to the Champions League semis or the final? If you probably get to it, Inter Milan, Benfica, and Villarreal. I mean, come on, you might as well throw us in there as well. How much of a piss easy run is that?
We've had it hard in the past, Steve. Been very hard in the past.
Oh, don't cry,
no one remembers the running. Just goes on the wall of trophies, doesn't it?
Exactly.
I've always said to mates for years, when Liverpool played the second leg of any tie at home, I think they're always going to get through. Always. So the only thing that I hold hope for is the second one's in Villarreal, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you don't batter Villarreal at home, there might be a bit of a chance there, but I think we'll see City, Liverpool in the Champions League final.
I think so, yeah.
I think that'll be a crack of a game to watch, but you know, Klopp seems to have the hands over Pep Guardiola, doesn't he? He seems to know exactly what to do against them. But yeah, I know we're meant to be chatting about the derby here, and I'm wanting to chat about Champions League.
We're on to Man City.
Mate,
it's proper Everton.
The more Everton thing I've seen this week is Marco Silva comes to the Premier League, and we're probably going to go to the Championship.
Oh, don't. I'm having nightmares, Dave. I don't sleep. My missus comes to bed, and I'm just like, honestly, don't talk to me. I'm watching Burnley. That's where my life is now. I'm watching Burnley. Don't talk to me.
Right, tonight, I'm sitting there in the house. I'm thinking, do you know what? Burnley at home are probably going to do these tonight because Southampton are on the beach. You look at the fixtures they've got left in.
I know.
The home games they've got, I think Villa. Who else? They got Palace. Teams like that at home, and I'm looking at it thinking those teams haven't got very little left to play for. They're not going to go down. A couple of them might have half a chance of getting in the Europa Conference or whatever it's called these days. I think we're gonna go, mate. I really feel sad to say that, and people have always called me absolutely negative about when I talk about Everton wherever I go. I get stick for it all over the place. But yeah, mate, I think I don't think we're gonna have enough. I really don't think we're gonna have enough.
It's horrible, isn't it? It's horrible. It is horrible.
Great.
Because it's
look at him laughing his head up there. You know,
and that's the thing. It is great for the Reds, and that's the thing, and that's why. Listen, if you take your colours out of yourself, that's why for me this city and these fans and it's the best rivalry. And I don't care if they look for Man United. It's all about us having banter and debating at the end of it. You know, I think it is. I think it's great. I think it's boss that Andy wants Everton to go down because I don't want them to win the league. Why would I want them to win the league, and why would Andy want Everton to finish 17th? You've got to be honest, and you've got to do it with a smile.
But yeah, you're right. But the difference is them not winning the league doesn't get them relegated, does it? You know what I mean? So
it gets me out though. I'll be out, Dave. Honestly, I'll be out. That Winslow disco will be bouncing.
Do you know what? The thing I'm more looking forward to is when Klopp leaves. Is it next year after next? He's saying he's going to go.
That's the one thing I am absolutely petrified about. So I had a little debate there. Would you, as a Red, Phil, would you take us doing the quadruple and Klopp just getting off at the end of the season, or would you take either the league or the Champions League? Only one of them, but he stays for another 2 seasons.
Another 2.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you look back and say, "What did you win under Klopp?" Won't you? Another 2, but like, are we in for a quadruple for the next? Yeah. Ultimately, you look back and say, "What did you win?" So,
I presume from asking you two, most fans that I've asked, Liverpool fans, would say, if you'd have to choose between the Premier League and the Champions League, you want to win the league again because it feels like the one that you've missed out of after the 30 years and all that, and obviously with COVID and pandemics and all that stuff. That'd be the one if you had to choose between the two. And I'm pretty sure, I think this has been an age-old debate, really, when you look at Man City, win the league quite regularly, but they haven't won the Champions League. It's the one thing that's avoided Guardiola since he's been there. They'd say the exact opposite. I mean, I know people are talking quads and things like that, which is, it shows you the level of what you're at and what you've done. As fans, the history you've got, the history we've got, which, you know, sadly is one of the things that we can still talk about, is the history we've got rather than the future or what we're going to have. When I look at Liverpool and think of, you know, back in the 80s, the 70s, everything where you just dominated and all of that, you two, I don't know, will you two be old enough to remember the main part of that? I think older Liverpool fans would say, this team you've got now is better than all that. Do you think it's the best you've ever seen?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, well, we're probably not even old enough to remember the last time we won the league, 89-90. So me and Andy, we grew up through 90s mediocrity, really. So definitely the best team we've ever seen. And even the great teams of the 80s, they were never this dominant, were they? They weren't ever that dominant in the league in terms of putting 90-plus points up year after year. So from that point of view, you know, there's never been a team this good.
Yeah, and that's
one
me.
More.
Go on. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, winning the league for you, I think, is the unfinished business, isn't it? Really, given the fact of what happened with COVID and that, and you just couldn't go and see it. Now, this derby for you must be sitting there rubbing your hands together, thinking how much pain you could put into us in this game. And I am now crying it in, because if we get anything, Ian, if we get anything from this on Sunday, which costs them a pot, mate, if we go down,
I'm at yours that night. I'm at yours. I'll bring the beers.
That's it, mate. Exactly. And that's how sad the bitterness has come. even if we go down, but we've cost Liverpool, even if we have a draw, I'll take that and be happy, you know, because I'm honestly, I'm concerned that we're going to go just the way things are working out. So yeah, the games we've got left to play, going away from home is pointless for Everton right now because they still can't work stuff out.
I think it could, as much nervous as I am, I think if I'm nervous, but yeah, you're right, it could be a carnival. Like it could be. I mean, against United, I was there on the Kop. It was after 5 minutes, it was like a carnival. It could be like that, and I think that's when it could be. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if it's 6-7, 8-0. If it gets that kind of early start and we get an early goal, it really could be that bad.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, Ian, before when Ian, when you messaged me about coming on, I was thinking team wise, what you'd even approach this with. And I was looking like Dele Alli actually got some game time, didn't he? Yeah. Bit deviled about that because I'm a bit of a romanticist. So when we first got him, I was quite excited because when he first come into the Premier League from MK Dons to Spurs, he looked like one of the best young players in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
We get someone now.
Sorry to interrupt. Burnley are winning 1-0.
Well, that's perfectly expected, mate.
Thanks for that, Andy. Nice one for that,
yeah, nice, mate. Absolute joke. Look at these shots here. Anyway, I was just interested to get your thoughts on the team that you'd expect us to go with. Calvert-Lewin, who, I mean, to me, it looks like he's already feels like he's left the football club. Yeah. The way in which he's performed and conducted himself on the pitch. I mean, Richarlison will start up front on his own. But then, this is where we're getting to now with Iwobi, who's actually been one of the more positive players. So he's going to play in there. Anthony Gordon, I feel so sorry for as well because he's wasted his whole life as a kid as an Evertonian to play for them in the Premier League, and he could well go down to play for Everton in the Championship. What team do you reckon we're going to go with? Line of five at the back?
I think so, yeah. I think when he came in, end of January, start of February, he tried to play that 3-4-3, which can go to 3-5-2 or numerous formations. But he tried to have that base of three, didn't he? It hasn't quite worked. Now, whether he looks at this now, and regardless of if Burnley do get points tonight or not, whether he looks at this as the best case scenario here is we frustrate them and get out of here with a point, that'll be in his mind to maybe play the three. Would I play the three? Probably not, because I haven't seen it working. I think that Southampton away and Newcastle away were two of the worst performances under him with that 3-4-3. I just think that's where he'll go. I also think you're right in what you're saying. I think he'll play Rondon. I really think he'll play Rondon just to say, help us with the set pieces, both in our box and their box, and give us something to hit, because there's going to be times we absolutely have to hit something and get out of our half. That's what I think he'll set up like.
It's interesting you mentioned Rondon, because that was one of he went off after 45, didn't he? Because, I mean, I think I moved better than the lad, and I was in hospital 6 weeks ago. Do you know what I mean? But the lad actually did all right against Liverpool, didn't he? That's one of the things in my head.
About, yeah.
That he's going to do. He's going to mix it, isn't he, with Van Dijk and all that sort of thing. And this is the reason, lads, you two Reds, they're obviously smirking, rightly so. But this is the reason why I'm saying that I have no hope or confidence whatsoever that we get near scoring at Anfield, because we're talking about a lad who's he's definitely past his best. He's definitely not the fittest player you'll see, and he's going up against the side that are, the fittest fleas, aren't they? You look at who you're going to play at the back. Your side of it, I mean, you're just going to go with similar to what you started with against City.
About kind of trying to time waste from the first minute and stuff like that, and try and frustrate us. I seen a stat there that Liverpool haven't conceded a first half goal since we played Shrewsbury. I think in January or February it might have been. Not conceded a first half goal.
That must be what, 15, 20 games, something like that.
The idea of you maybe getting a good start or something, the likelihood is you're not going to score in the first half anyway. So I don't mind. I don't, to be honest, like I said at the start, the rotation, whatever he does, whether it's Matip, Van Dijk, whether it's Kanate, Gomez in there, Tsimikas left back, I honestly am not that fussed, to be honest, what he does.
Andy, a good start for us, honestly. I'm not just saying a great start would obviously be to score and go 1-0 up, but a good start for me, trying to be as realistic as I can, to get to halfway through the first half, drawing, and then you start to think, actually, we need to maybe experiment a bit more, and then if you can get to half-time drawing, and not only get into your heads as the fan base, but to get into the manager's head, to Jurgen Klopp, if he has rotated, does he then think, well, it hasn't worked and I'll need to make a change? And that for me is a good start. To be level halfway through the first half, that's a good start.
Yeah, I mean it is. We got you. I'm actually looking at you right, Ian, because I'm looking the way in which they approach this is like getting to various points during games. I'm not thinking about what happens at the end and what result it's going to be. I'm thinking, right, 20 minutes, first 20 minutes of the derby, people are always throwing tackles in and all that sort of thing. I'm sure there'll be plenty of that. I think what Salah said was a little bit naughty with Thiago.
Yeah, it was.
How much of a laugh. What did he say? What were the words he said? I don't want to misquote him.
The next one will be fun.
Yeah. And I think I think somebody or someone from the club has come out and said that he meant in terms it'll be his first derby with fans at Anfield. Because the one thing that we were able to say is we actually won the last one at Anfield.
Absolutely, yeah.
The reason why he said it is obviously there were no fans there at the time. But I look at it from that first 20 minutes, mate. If we can actually do something to ruffle the feathers a little bit, make them not feel too comfortable at home, winning anything in the air, just win it. Just win the ball and get it away from our end of the ground. And then I look at the way you're going to set up. I mean, Mikalenko as well, I think has been absolutely brilliant. You think of what that man's been through in his life. He's been class at left back. This is another step up for him because who will he have be facing on the right hand side? Trent will be up and down all afternoon, won't he, as well?
Yeah.
Who will he play on that right side?
I don't know. I can't. Both sides for me, the team, I can't pick it. I've got an opinion, like I said, that it's a 3-4-3, but personnel-wise, I think Liverpool might do what they did under in December 19 when he played Shaqiri and he played Origi, and they were 4-1 up 30 minutes in. It worked. I think because he's done that and it's worked, Klopp might do that. I think Lampard might rip the rule book up and say it's get out of here alive and play centre-half, so full-back. I can't call a team. I don't know about you. Can't call it.
I think there's merit in what you've said there because right back's been a bit of a joke for us this year. As much as we all love Coleman and the career he's had, it's starting to feel a little bit the way it was with Baines. I think Baines did exactly the right thing in terms of
got out. Yeah,
we knew it was going to be his last year with us, but he'd come on for the last 20 of games when he'd finished and all that. That's the best way to say goodbye as a legend of a football club. Coleman is a victim of his own success in many ways because he will not stop trying for Everton. Yeah. John Joe Kenny, I don't think is anywhere near a Premier League player at right back. So I'm thinking, well, do you throw because Godfrey hasn't been great at all at centre back.
No.
Now we've got Mina back at least. There's still a different thing to be argued about with him. I think as an Everton defender, I know many people do like him, but I'd even look at maybe you throw Godfrey right back, as at least he's got the pace to try and keep up with whoever's out there. If it's Diaz, I mean, this is the thing with Klopp in many ways. He's got too many players to pick from in many ways, too many ways to approach this, whereas ourselves, the first thing like Ian I'm thinking of is how you arrange a back line that can actually stop these from attacking. And then I look at centre half. I think Mina is going to start because he come away from Leicester fit. Who's going to be next to him if you put Godfrey right back? Keane.
It'd be Michael Keane. It would. If that's what he does, it'd be Michael Keane.
Or I could see him possibly offer if you're going to put Godfrey right back, you go with Keane, Holgate as a back three, and Mikalenko on the left. I mean, Mikalenko's the one that I'm happy not to worry about, even though the lad's been through what he's been through. I tell you what, he's shown some mentality, hasn't he, that kid? So I don't have a problem with him playing left back in this. Then in front of them, it'd be what? Delph, Alan, and that pivot at the midfield. Iwobi in front of them. He'll stick with Anthony Gordon. I'd like to see Dele Alli start. We might as well have a go of it. If you're talking about putting Rondon up front, I'd be happy for Dele Alli to have a go. Because, look, you need to decide what we're going to do with him as well, the way in which we've signed and the way in which that contract works. We've got some games that we're still allowed to play The tank had me just bizarre, mate. Every complaint I've got with the Merseyside is probably said the same thing along the lines of the contract we've signed with Dele Alli, because if he actually does well, we're just openly paying money, 10 million, then 20, and then it goes up to 40. It's crazy.
Andy,
so I mean,
all that careful consideration about.
What was that, mate? Sorry.
Yeah, no. Phil has to pay his broadband.
Doesn't even matter.
Sorry, Phil.
You're going to get turned over any.
I don't even need to cut you off because your broadband provider is doing it for me.
He needs to turn the Burnley game off that he's celebrating there. That's
on his dodgy fire stick. Not that we condone dodgy fire sticks, by the way, but look, let's just wrap it up, boys. It's been an absolute pleasure for you to come on. We really, really appreciate it. Andy, quick little question for you before you go. Best and worst derby memories, and then finally, prediction for Sunday.
My best memory was, what was the game? I think it finished 4-1 when Gerrard scored that header.
Two of them in consecutive years against Martinez for us.
And then Suarez done the big long kick and it ran on. I can't remember the score. That was at Anfield. That was probably the best derby I've had. The worst derby memory I've got is, I actually, believe it or not, for my sins, left Anfield about 2 minutes before Pickford made that blunder and actually missed it. And it was my dad's birthday. It was in December, wasn't it, that game? It was my dad's birthday. I went into town, and I never ever leave the game early, but I left that game early and missed Pickford's blunder. And I actually felt like I'd lost the derby. You know, everyone was in party mode, and I felt like I'd missed something amazing. So that is actually my worst derby moment.
Not even an Everton win. Can't even get you to say, oh yeah, it was when Everton beat us.
It's only been born in 20 odd years, hasn't it, Anfield? So.
And I think prediction, I'm gonna give you two answers here, because I genuinely was saying to the lads, you know, I was texting all the Reds saying I fancy a last minute winner here, Salah against United. Obviously, we ended up battering them, and I feel the same as this. You know, it hasn't been. I can't think that season when we won the league, there was a lot of last minute winners coming from behind. You know, the Villa being the one that sticks out in mind. 2 late goals from, I think it was Robbo or Mane. There hasn't been many games like that this season for us. I think the Wolves were maybe one. I can see maybe, I don't know, it's going to go one or two ways. I think it's going to be 6-7-0, or it's going to be a last minute winner. I think we'll win, but you know, the realist says we'll probably win 4-5-6-0. But just because it's a derby and because it's used in the predicament that you're in now, I'd take a last minute winner as well.
Sure you would. I'm sure you would. Dave, same question for you. Growing up as maybe a young Evertonian up to now, best and worst memories, and then wrap it up with a prediction for Sunday, please.
Yeah, my best one, I think it'll probably stick like this till the day I die, to be honest with you, was when Andy Johnson bagged 2. We went in 2-0 up at half time. It was a gorgeous day as well in September. Yeah. Part of the season, I think it put us top of the league as well. That was one of the best. And when Reina made the mistake when Carsley has the shot, doesn't he? And then
that's right.
Johnson comes in and flicks in at the end. It tended to be things that Liverpool did with those mistakes back in that day, and it's gone completely opposite now, hasn't it? And then prediction for this. And I'm again genuinely sad enough to say this to people who are listening and watching this. But I'm actually a lot more focused on Chelsea at home next week, because at least it's at Goodison. I've written this game off for quite some time, and again, the likes of Andy, the likes of all the Reds who are watching this are going to think that we're saying it just to cry it in. I don't think Everton get anywhere near Liverpool in this game, and I think that if we get out of it with anything less than, if we got out of it with less than 3-0, I think it's probably a decent game that we've played, and that's the level that we're at these days, mate. And I don't think we go anywhere near goal scoring. Probably the last time you'd ask me on this for saying these things, but I presume you think a similar thing, to be honest.
Yeah, no, look, I'm trying to be positive. I think there are ways Everton can get something. It's going to involve a lot of things going our way, which generally doesn't happen for them. It doesn't happen, but you know, it's football.
The ref, by the way.
Oh, I don't know. Probably someone from the cop. I don't know. Klaus or something. I don't know.
You could play for us, mate. We still wouldn't we?
Probably. Oh no, look, I'm with you, Dave. I think it's going to be a really, really tough afternoon. God bless the fans who are going there. You are much better supporter than me. Let's just hope by somehow that we can get something from Anfield on Sunday. But boys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Nobody needs me to plug what you boys do, but just because I can, the Leggett Podcast, Andy Grant, over at the Blue Room, Dave Downie. Boys, two people that we at the podcast looked up to when we wanted to start our podcast here on Across the Park podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. You're welcome back on anytime that you want.
Nice one, boys. Cheers.
Cheers, lads.